Hey guys, I've got an awesome video for you today. Before we get started, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy New Year. I hope everything is going great for you guys. And if you're watching this and it's not New Year's or something, then I hope that you're having a great year. And yeah, also I just wanted to ask everybody if you're a fan, or if you have seen a few of my videos, I'd really love it if you could subscribe. Keeps the support going. It keeps me making the videos. And if you're new to the channel, then you can check out my other videos. I do tons of different kinds of stuff. I do reviews of games, pickups, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribed, checked out my videos, showed my channel to your friends, all that stuff. So yeah, let's get right into it. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System was released in 1990 with a wide array of games ranging from RPGs, fighting type, sports games. It really had everything. It was well respected and is still known as one of the best consoles of all time due to its extreme originality and amazing use of graphics and technology, especially back then. So we're going to take a look into the different games and why it's known the way it is. So although the Super Nintendo might not realistically be the best console, best selling, best reviewed, all that of all time, it is definitely the the one that kind of started a whole chain of things, a whole chain of events that I'm going to explain all of those different aspects of modern gaming and how the Super Nintendo really did have a very important role in that. The first up is one of the most recognizable things about the Super Nintendo, and it's not physical. It's actually with the games. Really, RPGs took off like mad in the Super Nintendo, as they did, with the PS1 and things that shortly followed. But yeah, Super Nintendo was an RPG haven for any RPG fanatic. It is amazing. Many of the best RPGs, best known RPGs of all time came from the Super Nintendo. You'd have Earthbound, Chrono Trigger, so many games, and this was due, a large part to the new landscapes that they could make. And it wasn't like on the original Nintendo when it was 8-bit and you could make an RPG, but you couldn't really do too many tricks, too much detail, which really did change in the Super Nintendo. So that's one thing. Everybody loves RPGs, or at least almost everybody, and the Super Nintendo really has an amazing variety of these games, many of which have been copied, remade, all sorts of things thanks to the Super Nintendo. Also, it has a great sound chip, and what a lot of people think of, when they think of their childhood gaming, is really those special, the songs that went along with the games they played. Of course, the Nintendo had a lot of them too in the 8-bit music, like, you've got the Mega Man 2 theme, like at the beginning of my my video. But then when you got to time of the Super Nintendo, you could have so much more orchestral and more details in the sounds. You got your Mega Man X themes, which are all extremely similar to the Mega Man 2, 3, 4, 5 themes. It's just that they feature so many different pieces, and that really makes them special. They're also able to do certain things like the Donkey Kong Country theme, like when I have a review at the beginning of this video. That is probably one of the most respected themes of all time. And that's, once again, thanks to the technology advancements made during the Super Nintendo era. You've got a new graphics chip. Many different games used it. One game that's very well known for having it is the F-Zero, which is that modern futuristic racing game where you see the foregrounds and backgrounds a lot better. As well, you've got many special different third-party chips, like you got them in Mega Man X2 and X3, which adds a lot to their graphics. It really is noticeable. And then you've just got games where Nintendo really went outside of the box and started doing polygons and 3D gaming, which really had never been seen before. It was really amazing. You had games like Donkey Kong Country where you could see it was more than just a 2D image. And then you've got Star Fox, when you have the airships, and now that it's totally obsolete, but back then it was amazing the what they were able to do with the Super Nintendo. You went from a few years ago when you had just 8-bit gaming, nothing more than just a few pixels, to something where you could have real 3D images on a Super Nintendo. Also, the colors, the clarity, that's of course because it's 16-bit, no longer 8-bit. All these things just made the Super Nintendo a revolution for its time. As well, games were really perfected back then. You had the original Metroid on the NES, which was a great game, and then they came out with Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. And basically anything that just needed to be changed or updated, storylines, anything like that, enemies, graphics, they really just revolutionized it with the Super Nintendo and blew everyone away. And many games were like that. You have all the RPGs, as I mentioned, which just totally changed from what they were on the original Nintendo, and they just blew everyone away. They were absolutely amazing and stunning on the Super Nintendo. Then we got the the controller. The controller is, of course, one of the most recognizable things about the system, other than the system itself. And you have the port, and then you've got 4 buttons. To us, it's normal now to have these 4 buttons. But back then, that really was something special. You had the original Nintendo, which just had A and B. Now you also got X and Y. And many of you might not realize it, but almost every controller out there now is based on this basic design. I'll slide a picture through so you can see what I mean. As well, you have trigger buttons, which started with the Super Nintendo, which are, of course, very well used now, and they really started using them a lot. You have Mario Kart, where you can use them to drift and look around, and they really are very helpful. So a lot of modern gaming control designs came from this little controller right here. So it really was a great controller. Now let's take a look at the system itself. As you can see, I have the Model 1, which is the one that most people know. I've also got the Model 2, which I'll show off a bit later, which was released as a redesign a few years later. So it's not that big, really. I mean, it's large in comparison to what we have now, but it isn't terrible. What you have is you have a port over here for all of your games, which just flips open, shuts closed, kind of like the top loader, the NES top loader. You have an eject button, which is very useful, especially since a lot of the games, you just have to rip out. So like this, you just push and it pops it open. You have power, and of course reset. So it has a very recognizable design. It's pretty nice design, the gray and purple. And other than that, you just have your you have your adapters in the back, Nintendo Help, and vents. So it's a pretty simple console. There's nothing too complicated about it. Like, it's not like the Nintendo where you pop it open, push it in, push it down. This, you just put it right in the top and press power. Over here you have a red light that will go off. That will turn on when the power is on. You have your 2 controller ports. You can play 2 players, but there are certain games like TMNT and stuff that do feature 4-player compatibility. But for that you would need a third-party adapter to have 4 controllers. After that, they came out with the redesign, the Super Nintendo Slim, Model 2, whatever you want to call it. It is a lot smaller and lighter. It's a very nice console. You have your power here, and your reset is just a button. You have the same idea over here, but it's 2 ports. See, it's 2 doors. It says Super Nintendo up there. You've got your your adapter things over here, and you've got your controller ports right there. You don't have an eject button, which is something that one thing I don't like about this console, because it can ruin your games like that. You really need an eject button. Anyways, so now let's get into the cartridges. The cartridges, they weren't revolutionary. They're just very nice overall cartridges, because first you had your Nintendo cartridges like this, and they were okay. They're big. They were nice. You could see which game you were playing. You had the whole thing going on. It's very classic. And then they came out with this, and in my opinion, these are definitely the most recognizable. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because you have the whole idea. It's right in the middle, and it's very big. A lot of the titles were written very big in large font. It's just a very nice, compact, yet still big enough so you can see them. You know, you have the big picture over here. It says Super Nintendo. You have the creators, all that. So very, you know, very simple but nice, nice cartridge. You have all this here. Then they came out the N64s, and in all honesty, I'm not a big fan of these cartridges. I like the games on the 64, but it's just the cartridges. I find them, I don't mind their size, but I don't really like the curve. I don't know. I really am more of a fan of the Super Nintendo where everything was, you know, sharp edges and it felt, you know, strong. And then, of course, you came out, you know, you got discs. You know, here's a GameCube. You know, you got Metroid over there. And discs, you know, they're nice, but what I really liked about, you know, games from 64 and before was that when you know you had your game and all of your save data was on the game, so the game really meant something to you. You know, like it's not, you know, nowadays games it's all saved all on your memory card, so the game it's just like every other game. But this, if I beat in the game, if I, you know, got a certain power up, if I customized the character a certain way, then it would be on my cartridge, and it's really my game. So that's what I really liked about. That's just general old stuff. And here we've got a Genesis cartridge, and this is what competed with the Super Nintendo for a large part. And you know, the Genesis cartridges really aren't that bad. I'm not a huge fan. I don't really like the curve once again, but I do like the fact that it's still in a rectangular shape. See, it is bigger. But one thing, these cartridges really feel sturdy. You know, sometimes they shake, they're loose a bit, but they feel great in your hand. So yeah, that's just a general overview of the cartridges. So those are all just the, you know, real things that, you know, they really stuck today. The discs, of course, that changed everything as far as cartridges go. But you know, you can tell from the controllers that they really did copy a lot from the RPGs. That the Super Nintendo really did change tons of things. You know, there was a ton of third-party support, which is why the Super Nintendo did so well. You know, today most popular Nintendo games really are just the Marios and things, but back then, you know, you had Castlevania, Bubble Bobble 2, like I just showed. You know, tons of different third-party games, and so that's, you know, those are just the things that made the Super Nintendo the console that it was. Whether it really is the best console ever made is always going to be up for debate. You know, there are all these great things that each console does for itself. You know, certain titles that, you know, everybody's gonna love from one certain console. But I think just as an overall, you know, gaming machine, I think the Super Nintendo really did change a lot, and we really need to appreciate what the Super Nintendo brought to modern gaming and what it did to retro gaming back then. So thank you for watching. Once again, I'd appreciate, you know, any support, subscribers, all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed my big Super Nintendo rant. It's probably my favorite console to play. I don't know if it's my favorite to collect. I really do enjoy collecting Nintendo games. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys soon.